In order to keep myself on track, I've written a speech tonight too, so forgive my reading. I thought I had my life figured out by high school. I was going to be a lawyer, but I hate wearing suits, even tonight. Then I thought I was going to be a doctor, until I actually fainted at the sight of blood. I took my first college class from CSI, a World Regional Geography class, while I was in high school in the spring of 1998. I graduated high school with honors and headed off to the big city, Boise State. I wasn't ready for college yet. Sure, I could take a telecommunications course from the luxury of my own home and do well, but a major university was another monster. I posted an abysmal GPA of like 1.4 over 3 semesters and was dismissed from school. I was disappointed in myself. I got to work. I worked for a decade without finding a career, without a bachelor's degree. I knew it was time to come back to school and finish a degree in a field that would be employable and that would keep me entertained. Ask a geologist why they became a geologist and you'll probably get some iteration of this story. I'd always thought rocks were pretty cool. I grew up here in Idaho. There are abundant mountains here and rocks everywhere. In the 8th grade, me and my father collected a nice collection of Idaho rocks and minerals for our earth science project. I even took an introductory geology class during those failing semesters in 2002 here at Boise State. It was one of the few classes I actually did pass. When I decided to come back to school, I decided to study geology because it seemed like something I'd always had a pretty decent attention span for. And at the time in 2014, it seemed like a pretty employable degree. That was my original goal, was to get a job with all of this. I will now graduate with a Bachelor's of Science in Geoscience in August of 2018, 20 years after I began my college journey. A part of my success this time was my attitude. I told myself when I came back to school that I would say yes to the opportunities that presented themselves. Research suggests that one of the most important factors in students graduating within 6 years of starting a degree is their involvement in campus life. There were some limitations to what a non-traditional 30-year-old is going to do to get involved in campus life. I wasn't going to rush a fraternity, and I'm probably not going out for the BSU Quidditch team. I kind of missed the boat on the Harry Potter thing. Pretty much everything else was fair game. One of the first opportunities that was presented was actually working at the BSU Writing Center. I've now worked as a writing tutor for the last 3 years, and not only has that job served to pay the bills, but it's made me a more compassionate and considerate human being, and a more critical writer. Although don't ask Mark that. I would like to thank Clyde Moneyhan and Melissa Keith of the Writing Center for taking a shot on a rock nerd like me. In my sophomore year, at the encouragement of my communications and earth science professor, Jim Pierce, I emailed my future mentor, Dr. Mark Schmitz, about opportunities to work in his lab and get involved in undergraduate research. I had taken his class the previous semester and had become interested in what he did as a geologist, something called geochronology. And it had used this mineral called zircon. No, not like the cubic zirconia ring, but that was my first thought too. I've been so lucky to work for such a great scientist. He's thoughtful, patient, always has time for his students. Mark has literally taught me how to do science and how to critically examine what I did while always emphasizing the fundamentals of research and the technique. Mark was recently recognized as the 2018 BSU Foundation Scholar Award recipient for research and creative activity as well. I'm so lucky to have studied under such a great mentor. Thank you, Dr. Mark Schmitz. I will be headed to work with one of his colleagues in a similar lab, and I look forward to our continued interactions in the field. I would also like to thank Debbie Pierce, who's here tonight. She's the lab manager for the Isotope Geology Laboratory, and she's been my supervisor for the past 2 years while I work and do research there. I've been lucky enough to see quite a few geology labs in the past 2 years of research and visiting graduate schools, and not one school had a Debbie other than BSU. Debbie can do it all. She can fix anything, and she's a great person to be around. I'm convinced now that the key to a good lab is a good lab manager. Debbie helped to teach me much of what I've learned about working in a lab. My romanticized image of a geologist would have been somebody who spent most of their time identifying rocks for people. Boy, how that bubble was burst when I came to school. I found that a geologist spends most of their time not identifying rocks, but fixing broken equipment that the students or other faculty have broken. I would also like to thank the previous McNair scholar, Eric Buttons Nelson. for telling me about the McNair program. He graduated last year and is at, I think, Boston University or Boston College. I actually ran into Eric at the Bernie Sanders rally here at the Taco Bell Arena a couple years ago, and he told me all about McNair, and I very quickly made the decision to pursue this. I'm thankful to the McNair program for providing traditionally underrepresented and first-generation low-income students the chance to really succeed as an undergraduate student and to develop the necessary disposition to be successful in graduate school. I would like to thank you, Sarah and Greg. I would like to thank Bernice Olivas and Ben Larson, Ramona Shipman, Memo Cordova, and all of the other TRIO program staff that have helped along the way. I would also like to thank my cohort, Chandra, Philip, Andres, Alondra, and those of us who are not here today. Our shared experiences these past 2 years have helped me to become a better human being and a scholar. And I'm going to miss all of you very much, except for Andres, because we're going to Princeton together. Finally, I would like to thank my friends and family that are here this evening, and those that couldn't be here as well. Thank you to my best friend, James Fowler, for your patience in our friendship these past 4 years as I hid away in a secluded room to do endless amounts of homework. His mother, Robin, is here too. My second mother, thank you for being here tonight. My mother and father are both here, Catherine and Leon Leach. I want to thank them for being here and for teaching me to always do my best, no matter what I'm doing. Thank you for continuing to support your 30-something-year-old son while he still figures out what to do with his life. I'd like to thank my sister, Charlotte, and her husband, Justin, and their kids for being here tonight, and I hope that those kids grow up to be geologists. Being behind this podium today is really surreal. I remember coming to this graduation dinner 2 years ago, knowing nothing about McNair, and watching that group of McNair scholars talk about going to Georgetown and go to Oxford, and thinking to myself, there's no way I'd ever get into a school like that. I'm happy to say that I will begin PhD research at Princeton University this fall under the mentorship of Dr. Blair Shaney. I have one piece of advice that I want to leave you all with tonight. If you want to do something in life or at school, you want that internship, you want that scholarship, but you're hung up on the application process, or you don't think you're a good enough candidate for it, just apply, okay? Just apply. You will miss out on 100% of the opportunities you never try for. I never thought as an undergraduate that I would go to Africa to do research, or that I would write a successful research proposal for a prestigious National Science Foundation fellowship, or that I would be accepted into the top-ranked schools in my field and have my veritable choice of schools to go to fully funded for 5 years. My success with all of these endeavors wasn't that I was the smartest student, the most talented writer, the best test taker, the most charismatic person, or the best at identifying rocks and minerals. My success with these endeavors was that I tried my best and I just applied. I didn't get into every school I applied to, and I didn't get every scholarship that I applied for. And those rejections, they hurt. They really hurt when you first open up those emails. But it doesn't hurt as much as not trying. So whatever it is in life that you're self-selecting yourself out of, stop. Just do what you want to do. Thank you.